Hello everyone and welcome back to Creator in Conversation. My name is Owen Macaulay, and as well as being the host of this podcast, I'm also president of Tala Academy of Sequential Art, TASQ Art, TASQ. If this is your first time joining us, you're very welcome to check out our back catalogue available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Joining us in today's episode, we're taking a very unique perspective from Vincent Zurzolo, who is the owner behind ComicConnect, an online auction house, and Metropolis Comics. But Vincent is also a creator in his own right with the series The Addiction. Vincent, it was great to have an opportunity to speak with him, because those of you who visit our campus just off the Avonmore Road at the Edge, Dublin, you will see that we have a great selection of original comic book art. And where I've been able to gather and curate this collection was thanks to Vincent and his great team at ComicConnect. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, we record our episodes in advance. There was an upcoming auction, but I didn't have time in the schedule in order to get this episode out to coincide. I do, however, want to take this opportunity to advise everyone who's listening to visit ComicConnect.com if you're going to New York Comic Con to check out the table that they have. I believe they're auctioning Al Placido's table, the famous Superman artist, and you'll be able to find out and speak probably with Vincent directly as well, and he'll be there with his original comic creator series also. This is a really exciting conversation as well, because during the Q&A, Vincent actually took out an original Action Comics #1 to show, the first appearance of Superman, and I'll be posting some of the images that we discuss on our YouTube channel and social media pages. So if you find us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and also wherever you get your podcasts as well. So for now, it's over to Vincent in this episode of Creator in Conversation. Welcome back everyone to Creator in Conversation, and thank you, Vincent, for joining me here today for today's episode. How are you keeping?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, that's great. Have you ever made it over to this side, over to Ireland yet? Have you checked out any of the convention scenes?
Sadly, I've never been to Ireland. And what's been amazing for me is every single person who has been to Ireland that I know tells me how the Irish are the friendliest people you'll ever meet on earth. And I moved to the point where people will stop you in the middle of the street and start chatting with you about something. You might go to a pub and get a drink with them. And that's really sweet and beautiful and very different than living in New York City.
That's good to hear that our hospitality is conveying across, because if there's one thing we pride ourselves on is the hospitality factor to us. And like, I've been to New York a couple of times myself as well, but I do love the contrast to the city. It's very much a vibrant area that you live in there as well, and of course huge comic book community in New York as well. I think New York's probably perhaps the cornerstone to the comic book industry, or at least the genesis of the industry for sure. Would I be correct in saying that?
I think you'd absolutely be correct in saying that. You know, the early origins of comic books were centered in New York City, and what's incredible about it is a lot of it came about from Jewish immigrants trying to make a living in New York City, and the advent of newspaper strips, and then taking those newspaper strips and compiling to get them together to make a comic book that you could sell with reprinted material, and then eventually original material, and then eventually we get into the superhero genre in the late 30s. So with Action Comics #1 and Superman. As a matter of fact, I thought your listeners and viewers might get a kick out of it. So if you want to take a shot at it.
Is that a legit Action Comics one?
Yeah, of course. Action Comics #1.
Nice.
My auction company, ComicConnect, we auctioned this book off. It's an Action Comics #1, CGC graded 9.0 with slight. This one's the slight restoration one that we sold for a record for a restored comic book that was $794,000. And this one here is a 9.0 moderate, and this one sold for $550,000.
That's incredible. And as you were saying about the mythology aspect, it's something that's been a recurring theme in some of our conversations, and even with the academy here when we teach it. We're saying that in America, obviously here in Ireland, we can go back to like the ancient Celtic history, but in America, really you're going back to the 20th century, and the superhero formed as the American mythology. Obviously Native Americans, different mythology, different branch to it. But modern America goes back to the superhero. So like that Action Comics 1, that is like the equivalent, of a Greek urn or a tapestry when you put it into context.
If you want to be a little bit more to the point with it, many people will liken Superman to the ultimate immigration story. A foreigner comes to New York, to America and lives the American dream, makes good. But also there are biblical connections as well. Many people will say that Superman was like Moses in putting the basket into the river. He's putting a spaceship sent to Earth. So very interesting similarities there. And, I think we take comic books and as the modern day myths. So, you had Zeus, you had Hercules, you had all the different gods and goddesses from the different countries and religions, and in different ways. Like, the Flash is Hermes, right? Superman is Zeus, so to speak. Those types of things. So it's a lot of connections there, and some are direct, some are indirect, some are in like an homage or something's that's a hybrid of different characters. But for the most part, I liken it to modern day myths. And for me, comic books have always been an incredibly important part of my life since I was a little boy, before I could even read. I had two big brothers that collect comic books, and I was able to look at their comics and I remember just seeing these costumes and these characters and go, oh my God, this is so cool. And everything in my life, as a little boy, was about superheroes. It was about monsters, Godzilla, King Kong, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. These were big parts of my life. And Saturday morning cartoons. And I don't know if they had that in Ireland, but in the U.S. on Saturday morning, I'd get up. I couldn't get up for school during the week, but I would get up super early on a Saturday, and I'd watch from like 6 a.m. till, 12. It was probably something that rotted my brain a little bit, but also, made me the pop culture junkie that I am today. I love pop culture. When people ask me, about my work or why do you watch so much television? I'm like, well, this is my kind of part of my job. I have to know about what's going on out there in pop culture. And it's not just comic books, it's comic books, it's video games, it's everything you can imagine. I've actually had to become very, I wouldn't say I'm an expert yet, but I'm learning a lot about anime and manga over the last few years. Luckily, my wife's a huge anime fan, so she's helping me out with that, and she reads manga. So that's really cool. But I love all aspects of pop culture, and comic books are a central part of who I am and what I do on a daily basis. To give you a little bit of background, when I was around 15 years old, I started buying and selling comic books with a dear friend of mine, a neighbor from across the street in Rockaway Beach, where I grew up. It was a beautiful area, a little peninsula on the Atlantic Ocean, and you couldn't get any luckier in New York City than to grow up by the beach. It was amazing. Started buying and selling comic books while I was in junior high school and then high school, and I did it part-time through college. And when I graduated from St. John's University in Queens, I started selling comic books on the streets of Manhattan. And I would set up with 2 card tables and 8 boxes of books in the financial district on Broadway between John and Maiden Lane. I would sit up there 5 days a week, and I would sell comic books to anybody who was walking by. A lot of guys from the financial district and just people who walked by. And it was amazing. And I really learned to hone my skills and be an entrepreneur by doing this. And then I started building up my business where I did packaging. And I was a supplier to packagers. When you saw comic books, three comics in a bag for, let's say in the United States, it was like $1. I was the guy finding, hundreds of thousands of books on a monthly basis to bring to these guys, and they were packaging them and selling them. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And then I built up my mail order company, and I was always dealing in golden, silver, and bronze age material and modern books at that time. But as time went on, I developed my business. And in 1999, my goal was always like, I wanted to be the biggest comic book dealer in the world. And there was one guy I could not figure out how to beat, Stephen Fischler of Metropolis. And the old saying, if you can't beat him, join him. Well, he asked me to be his partner, and I was very, very complimented by that. And we put together a partnership agreement, and we merged companies. And this past July will be 26 years that we've been partners. It's kind of hard to believe, but both our partnership in business has lasted longer than both of our first marriages put together. So that's crazy, but it's true. So yeah, and then from there, 1999, we started building up Metropolis together. And one of the other things we did is we started a production company. We actually sold a television show on our first pitch to AMC back in, I think it was like 2001. And it was called The Wrong Coast, and it aired on a sister station of AMC for 2 seasons. It was a stop motion sketch comedy show. So it was like, what if Woody Allen was cast as Spider-Man? He's like, oh God, I can't believe all these webs. Oh God, that type of thing. And so we did a bunch of stuff like that. And we thought at one point, goodbye comic books, hello Hollywood, and we're going to be big time producers. But it didn't quite materialize like that. So we doubled down in the comic book world and kept pushing forward. In 2007, we started ComicConnect, which is our auction company, consignment and auction company. And we are arguably one of the biggest auctioneers of vintage comic books and original comic art in the world. We have held over the last 26 years multiple records for the most expensive comic books ever sold. We were the first company to ever sold a comic book for $1 million, which was Action Comics #1 8.0 in 2010, and after that we sold an 8.5 for $1.5 million. So and then going from there, we sold comic books for 1.1, 1.5, 1.75, 1.8, 2.2, 2.5, 3.2, 4.7. So we've sold a ton of books, and we've been incredibly blessed to have a very successful company. We have a great team here. Our people are very passionate about comic books and original art. And every day I feel very fortunate. I get to do something I love. And there is a saying, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. I don't actually believe that. I think that's a bunch of crap, because I work my ass off and I deal with a lot of business stuff, frustrating stuff and great stuff. But it's all part and parcel of being an entrepreneur and owning and running a business. Now, having said that, I can't honestly say there's too many things I'd rather be doing. I love comic books, and I love them so much that I was actually very fortunate enough to publish my own comic book called The Addiction. And I'd be happy to tell you a little bit about that if you have any questions about current day publishing and art and creation. I'm happy to delve into that as well.
No, absolutely, because it sounds like you're basically the American dream. You started with like tables on the street selling your comics. Now you're running a company. You even have a foray in television as well. It's an incredible journey along the way. And now you've gone from being, it sounds like you were a fan of comics since childhood as well. You get to work with them, and now you're creating your own comics. So was that always on the cards for you from the moment you started reading? Did you always have that fire in you to create your own, or was that something which kind of gestated over time?
Yeah, I have recollections of being 10 years old with my friends, taking a bunch of loose leaf paper or typewriter paper, folding in half, stapling it, and then starting to draw a comic book that way. So I remember doing that type of thing with my friends, and it's always been a childhood dream of mine to publish my own comic book. when back in 1996, I came up with this idea called The Addiction. And it's about an undercover narcotics cop who gets found out by the mafia, and they basically poison him and leave him for dead. And he comes back with these powers. And basically, he looks like kind of a wraith from Lord of the Rings, black and smoldering head. And I brought in my partner, David Quinn. He created Faust with Tim Vigil back in the 80s. Very popular, one of the first mature independent comic books, black and white, and it was very, very popular. Still popular today. And David and I started developing this character, and we actually decided to change from a man to a woman, the character itself, not transitioning, nothing like that. But I just mean, we realized there were so many male characters out there that wouldn't it be a little bit cooler to have a female hero or heroine? And basically, Nick Otino becomes Nikki Tino. And her power is basically this. From her slightest touch, she can inject any type of drug into a person's body. And it's been a really fun journey for us. We started working on it in the 90s, but never went to publish. We actually had a fully drawn comic book, and I got cold feet. I didn't think it was the right time for me. And it laid dormant for a long time. So that was 1997. And then during the pandemic in 2020, I got on the phone. Well, one day we were all facing our own mortality at that time. You don't know what you're going to touch, and then touch your face and you're going to die. And one morning I woke up and I said, if I were to die tomorrow, what's the biggest regret I'd have in my life? And the first thing that popped into my head was the addiction. I wanted to publish this comic book. It was a childhood dream of mine. And so I called up David. I said, I'd like to get back to work on The Addiction. And he goes, oh, I love it. That's fantastic. Let's do it. So we did. We did do that. And we had a fantastic experience restarting this incredible universe with this character and fleshing out the world that she lived in. And we slowly, methodically found the team that we wanted to work with. And so it was an incredible experience. And I got to say, I just feel so blessed. We published our first miniseries last year, which was really well received considering we're independent publishers and nobody ever heard of the character. And we're in a market that's not the easiest market in the world for independents. And we, between print and digital, which we sell on the VV app. If nobody knows about the VV app, you should check it out. They're digital collectibles. They own the Marvel license, and they're fantastic, VEVE. And The Addiction is one of the hottest properties on VV app. But between digital and print, we sold on the 3-issue miniseries and convention specials, we sold over 37,000 copies, which is a pretty big number.
That's great, yeah.
So it was very well received. We've had some interest from Hollywood, and we're continuing to move forward with it. And we're actually right now working on our second series, and we're going to be bringing it to market at the New York Comic-Con this year. So we're going to have an Addiction booth, and we're doing some really special promotions and giveaways, and it's really exciting. So we're thrilled about it. Yeah.
It's fantastic. And you mentioned the idea originally began in the 90s. Now you're releasing it today. Are you glad that it's now happening today because technology has evolved so much just from the actual physical printing? And you mentioned the VV app in terms of another distribution. So you think the stars aligned that it was better that you did wait until now to release it?
Yeah. So I think there's several different things that definitely factored into it. I certainly think my one of the first things is that my finances are in a better situation that if I had to take a hit on something like this, it's not. Whereas, back in 1996, it was a bit of a drag. It would have been, 97 actually, when we were thinking of printing it. How do I put this? We kept going with it, and it's in a place where you have digital now that you can rely on. You have print in a smaller fashion, but you have print. You also have people very acceptable, convention variants are very highly collectible and accepted in the hobby. So we have a lot of factors that have helped us to be successful in this endeavor. And for me, I'd be happy to show you some of our covers,
Yeah, please.
comic books. So we also had let me take this out of the bags for you. We had the good fortune of having Art Germ on it. And anybody out there who knows Art Germ, he's one of the top cover artists in the world. And this is the cover he did for us, which I think, if I can get the glare off it,
Perfect.
there we go. So that's the Art Germ cover. And we did that cover, and we also did several other covers. And one of the unique things about our comic book, we have the VV Blue, VV Red. Oh, this is the Grimaldi's cover. I'll tell you about that in a second. We also had Aletha Martinez, the original artist from the 90s, working on this cover. And David Mack, very famous artist, working on this. And here's a white version of the David Mack cover. Let me just, so you guys can see it. And that's pretty cool.
In terms of availability, can folks order this through, I was going to say Diamond, but Diamond these days, God only knows what's happening there.
Yeah.
But in terms of ordering it, how can people go about getting copies?
They'll be in comic stores. Sorry, they're actually already in comic stores, and I believe they made all the way to Ireland. You can also order them from my website, metropoliscomics.com. You can also, we have a website that'll be back up and running in October. We took it down because we're revamping it, theaddiction.co. But you can also just contact us here at Metropolis Collectibles, and we can put a batch together for you. Do have customers from all over the world who have bought The Addiction, and we're very excited about that. One of the coolest aspects of the comic book is that it's the first comic book in history that has product placement for a New York City pizzeria. Right there is Grimaldi's. Grimaldi's is like pizzeria in New York City. Why do I like Grimaldi so much? Well, they do a coal-fired pizza and they use incredible ingredients, and to me, it's the best pizza in New York City. I just adore it. So what happened is I called them up one day and I said, "Hey, I'm doing this comic book. I'd like to use your pizza box on the cover of my comic book." And they said, "Sure, but yeah, no problem." I said, "Great." They said, "We love comic books. It's great." I said, it's not a bait and switch. I'm not going to ask you for any money, but what I love is, could we have an off-menu pie called the Addiction Special for a promotion period? And they were like, "Yeah, sure." The first question was, "What's in it?" So I had to think really quick, and I was like, "Okay, it's pepperonis, mushroom, and truffle oil." And they're like, "Yeah, we have all those, not a problem." So every one of our first 3 issues has a food connection. So, and food is very important part of The Addiction. Not only does she fight crime, but we wanted to make her like a real person. She likes to eat. We've got quite an appetite. So the second issue is with Xiaolong Bao, which are Chinese soup dumplings. And anybody out there who's ever eaten a soup dumpling, the first one you eat, you always burn your mouth. So there's this whole double-page spread where Nikki is teaching her boyfriend Enzo how to eat a soup dumpling, and he burns his mouth. And we branded that with the Mila, M-I-L-A, Mila Frozen Soup Dumpling Company. So we did that on our second issue. And in our third issue, I reached out to my favorite coffee shop called Culture, and they did a great promotion with us wherein they actually sold the comic books in their store. Promotion was really cool. They did, we gave a coupon out. If you bought a comic book, you can go into Culture, buy a coffee, and you get a free cookie. Their cookies, their chocolate chip cookies, are the best in New York City. Anybody coming to New York City, go to Culture. They're all in Midtown. They have 3 locations. And their cookies are $5.25 a piece. And two people could split a cookie. That's how big and rich they are. I actually had one today, and I haven't had one in months. It was absolutely amazing. So had the pleasure of working with some great artists on the first issue. And then we also, on the second issue, we had Ryan Brown from Ireland.
Oh, yeah, I know Ryan. Yeah, I know Ryan.
Ryan is a fantastic artist, incredibly sweet and talented and kind. And he did this great cover with the villain in the background is named Mr. Licorice. And he's a candy-coated super criminal. All of his weapons and all of his crimes are candy-themed. Here's a robot cat cover with Mr. Licorice and his sidekick pal, Bet Noir. All his costumes are candy themed as well. We even did a black, white, and gold version. And Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti are dear friends of mine. They did it for us. It was really fun. And Andres Labrada is the only artist who did 1, 2, and 3. He did this one. And instead of brass knuckles, Mr. Licorice has ring pops on his fingers. So it's ready for battle. And then our third issue, which was for finishing the first story arc, had a beautiful cover, which is a digital cover, digitally created by Mondo Freeman. There's Nikki and Mr. Licorice on the cover. We also did a cover that was more of we call it the vintage cover. It looks like an old photograph. It's got some really great details in it. We got David Quinn's, my partner on Faust, Tim Vigil, to do a cover, which was really cool to have him on board. And we did that cover with Tim Vigil, which was very well received. It was only a convention and in-store promotional book, so it was really good. And Labrada's last cover for us was this Murakami-inspired cover, which is really, really fun. And then we also had our interior artist, who is from Italy, from Rome, Italy. Her name is Claudia Balboni. She did this cover for us. And it's just been such a pleasure to work with these very talented, creative people, to see the beautiful artwork that they create, and to work with David, who's an amazing writer. And we've had such a really fantastic collaboration on The Addiction. And it's also interesting to work the other side of the table, so to speak, at convention, because now I'm the guy behind the booth selling his comic book, and it's one of the strangest things in the world where people are asking me for a signature, and it's something I'm still not quite comfortable with, but I'm very happy to make anybody happy with the signature. I like stickled thing. That's pretty cool.
That's amazing. And how are you finding collaboration as a whole? Because you mentioned you have some of the contributors based as far as Italy, you have covers coming in from as far as here in Ireland as well. Do you have kind of retreats or virtual meetings with everyone? Do you operate on a kind of a synopsis approach and then someone scripts into it? Because it looks like you have a lot of plates spinning, and then it's like, and then you throw in this whole creative process as well.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I'm never somebody who has nothing to do. I feed off that whole idea of you only live once, live life with passion, do everything you've ever wanted to do with your life. So these are things I'm really passionate about. And it's a pleasure for me to be able to work on this. And sometimes it's grueling and it's a pain in the neck. If anybody told me how hard it was to make a comic book, I don't know if I ever would have, but I genuinely thought you write one, somebody draws it, and then you publish it. There's so many more steps. There's like, you're an entrepreneur all over again. There's budgeting, there's advertising, there's marketing, there's inventions, there's managing team members. There's like, we have a guy who's a head of sales and marketing. We have somebody who came on board to help us with digital, and it's been fantastic. We do social media. We do so many different things, and it's just a challenge. And it's nice to, at this stage in my life where I've done very well with my main business of buying and selling comic books and auctioning comic books, to be able to start at ground zero as a publisher and build up from there. It's been really amazing. I'm very excited about it. And I can't wait for this New York Comic Con. We are really going to have some amazing books. Just to give you a glimpse, or actually just not a glimpse, a tease of who we have as cover artists for a second series. My dear friend Simone Bianchi is doing the cover, which is a ornate cover. David Finch, another friend of mine, one of my favorite modern day artists, he's doing the cover. From Greece, Danny. I don't know if you know Danny. Danny's really a fantastic. If you look on Instagram, Danny Strips. She's an amazing artist. She did a cover for us. Tim Vigil did a cover for us. Andres Labrada is back. We got the Escorza brothers from the Turtles Last Ronin. They just did an incredible cover. which I'm super excited about. It's just it's just amazing, and it came together very quickly, and they were so professional about it. Really extraordinary. Um, so yeah, Claudio Balboni is back doing the interior artwork. David had just finished the script for the third issue, which is really great. And we're super excited about it.
Oh, sounds amazing. And with regards to the covers when they're done as well with these artists, so obviously you have an auction house, you sell artwork as well. So will you be auctioning some of this artwork, or is this this is
the key fight? It's mine. I'm a happy miser. I'm socially secure. No, I just have to keep. This is like my baby. And I have had people who wanted to buy the artwork, but I don't want to sell it. In fact, I try to buy every single cover. And, some of our covers, the cover from Artgerm and the cover from Mondo Freeman, were digital covers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting aspect of the comic art world. And to know that there's no actual original, it's all on a computer. And, at first it really bothered me. And then I realized, look, if I didn't do that with Artgerm, I wasn't going to get a cover. So, no problem. Let's just do it. Same thing with Mondo Freeman. His style is best produced through digital, and I think it's wonderful. So it's been really cool to experience that. Some people are very nervous about digital comic books taking away from the print market. And here's what I have to say about that. I think anything that makes people read comic books is a good thing. I think people that read digital comic books may start collecting print and may not. But isn't it better that they read something than nothing? So, and I don't think there's many people who love print comic books that go, oh, I'm just going to read digital. Todd McFarlane made some really great points about digital comic books. Number one, if you live in, let's say, Japan, and you want to buy an American comic book from America, just the cost of shipping alone is going to be, a big barrier. Then the other thing is, again, if you live in Japan or New York City or a city where you don't have a lot of room, comic books build up very fast. I have a warehouse here in my location. Our stock room is 150,000 books and constantly growing. So the point being, you now have your comic books either on your desktop or your laptop or your iPad or your phone. And that's something that's really good. And also with digital, you don't have to worry about them getting damaged. Nothing's going to get caught in a flood or a fire. And so that's also a benefit. Now, having said that, I've quoted Todd McFarlane. I'm going to quote an even greater legend in the comic book world. I'm going to quote Stan Lee. Stan Lee said to me, when people ask him about digital comic books and the print comic, he said, comic books are like boobs. They're great to look at, but better to hold in your hands. So I think Stan was very wise in what he said. I think we can all agree.
And no, it's really interesting. We just had Dublin Comic Con here, and I was speaking to the artists about this very topic, and a lot of it's to do with process. Like we had one gentleman, Rafa Labosco, who's working on Thundercats Lost, and he lived in Dublin but moved back to Brazil, and he came back for the show, and he's like, well, I work on a Cintiq, but I can do my pages while I'm en route on my iPad. So the digital process and that dimension is more practical. And then if you think about it, one of the conversations that comes up quite a bit, and I'd be curious to get your opinion, insight in it as well, is the disruptive nature of AI. Now, a lot of the artists we've been speaking with and writers as well have been saying, well, at the moment, it's just a tool. It's not too disruptive to what they're doing. It's not there to where it's going to replace anything. I've heard Brian Michael Bendis liken it to the emergence of Photoshop. He remembers when Photoshop first appeared and everyone thought, the sky is falling down, it became another tool. But what we also say is, well, with AI, people aren't going to queue up and go to a convention to see something printed off a machine. They're still going to want to meet people. And if digital tools allow the artist to be more mobile, the idea of meeting the artist, maybe getting a live sketch from them as well, there's the inherent benefit to it. But where do you think the AI aspect's going to come in? Do you think that's really going to disrupt comic collecting as we see it, or comic production? Or do you think, again, it's going to be more, it's just another tool that's being brought in?
I don't have a crystal ball, so we don't actually know. But there's some things about AI that are very scary, especially living through all the great sci-fi of the 90s and before and after, Skynet and whatnot. And you have to be concerned about certain things. And, every time that we're afraid that, it's going to take people's jobs away, I think what you also have to realize is people who are able to make ChatGPT or any of the AI sing. And what I mean by sing is there are people who can use it and it's very rudimentary, and then there are people who can make the most beautiful things out of it. It's another tool. And so if you can utilize that tool to help bring your vision to life, that can be very cool. Like, I'll give you a quick, for instance, I'm not that adept at using AI, but I spent a little bit of time. I was working on another story and some characters, and I described them into ChatGPT, and they came back with a picture for me. Now, you might say, oh, but you could have hired an artist to do that. Now you're stealing that work from an artist. I wouldn't have hired an artist. I just wanted to play with this and see what it came up with. And so I did that, and it took a couple minutes. And then I said to myself, okay, well, now I have something I can tell an artist to draw for me. Now, will people eventually be doing AI-created comic books? Of course they will. I mean, now, whether or not they're marketable, that's another story, because I think there will be a lot of resistance from people. Now, if but something's going to break through eventually. Just like in our lifetime, we're going to see, real sex bots. That's going to happen. Give it 5 to 10 years. You're going to see that. You're going to see people marrying robots. I think somebody already did marry a robot in Japan, or a doll or something. You're going to see a lot of strange and weird things as time moves on and as technology advances. But I think you have to embrace technology because there's really no other choice. But you also have to be very wary of it, and you also have to be very cognizant of protecting artists. Artists are really important to culture, to the very fabric of society, and you have to make sure that they are protected and that their creativity is nurtured. You don't want to shut that down because, as great as AI can be, there's nothing like somebody working on a computer or on paper and painting or drawing something really amazing. So those are my feelings about it. I think in the end, everything's going to work out okay. I'm an eternal, cautiously optimistic person.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best outset to have as well, the best outlook to have. And in terms of your fast collection and, also selling and auctioning off items as well, how is that managed for you guys to be able to, people come to you? Do you call out for people to submit? And then I'm not as well versed in the world, but let's say about not so much authenticating if the piece is actually by the person, but if someone submits something and it turns out, oh, well, they want the owner, let's say, or something like that, or this is a piece that was stolen that circulates back in. It's like any auction house, I imagine. There's like the sum that you have to, check in the background a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, you do. If something gets stolen, I'm usually one of the first people that people will notify because we're offered on a daily basis. Having said that, authenticating comic books into being original and unrestored is a job that, we handle here. We have a team of experts that can look at books and ascertain whether or not they've been fooled with or professionally restored. And there's nothing wrong with professionally restored books. In fact, our next event on ComicConnect, which starts this coming Monday, August 25th, and ends the week of September 14th through the 8th, Event Auction 63 will be chock full of incredibly beautifully restored Golden Age keys. Superman #1, Batman #1, Marvel Comics 1, Captain America #1, All-American 16, Submariner Comics #1, all 9.4 or better. Beautifully restored, like just amazing. So we have close to 200 books in the True North collection, which is what I was mentioning just now in terms of the Golden Age keys. but there's also tons of unrestored comic books. There's an Amazing Fantasy 15 and 8.0. There's an All Flash Comics #1 and 9.0. There's just so many great books in this collection, ranging from the Golden Age all the way to modern age. So that's going to be one of our preeminent sessions in our auction. Will be chock full of great books. Our second, third, and fourth sessions will be American comic books outside of the True North collection, as well as foreign comics. So we've really promoted and become one of the premier auction sites for foreign comic books. So comic books from all over the world, where different colors were used to print the books, different alphabets, and seeing a Middle Eastern Batman or a Japanese Superman #1 from the 50s. It's just so cool. I mean, it's like learning comic books all over again, or experiencing comic books all over again. It's just absolutely magical. In the auction also, we have just an incredible array of vintage comic books, tons of Silver Age Marvel keys, X-Men #1, Fantastic Four #1, Amazing Fantasy 15, Spider-Man #1, you name it. Then one of the coolest books we have in that part of the auction, we have the More Fun Comics #73. And for those of you out there who don't know what the significance of More Fun Comics 73 from 1942 is, it's the first appearance of Aquaman. It's also the first appearance of Green Arrow and his sidekick Speedy. It's got an incredible Dr. Fate cover. And this comic book that we're auctioning off, it's incredibly important, but what makes it even more important, it's a CGC graded 9.4. And what makes it even more important, it's from the greatest pedigree collection ever known to man, the Edgar Church Mile High Collection, which Edgar Church was a collector who collected every comic book from the 30s to the 50s. And there's 20,000 books in all. And almost every single one of them was in 9.4 or better condition. The paper quality is exceptional. It's just an amazing, amazing collection. So we have several other Mile High copies in this auction, but that More Fun 73 is the signature book. Now, also in terms of original comic art, we have a fantastic array of close to 300 pieces. And the most important piece in this auction is cover to Uncanny X-Men #150, which showcases on the cover Cyclops versus Magneto, which is an incredible cover. I remember buying this off the newsstand when I was a little boy. I think I was 10 years old. I think it's 1981. And I remember going crazy for this book. I love X-Men. And seeing the original cover art by Dave Cockrum, by the way, who is the original artist of the new X-Men, was an incredible experience for me. It moved me to be able to hold this piece in my hands and go, oh my God, this is such a great cover. Well, what an amazing piece to be the steward for a very short period of time and bring to market. It'll find its way into a loving collector's collection, and we'll go from there. So the ComicConnect event options are fantastic. By the way, we also have one that's ending this Sunday the 24th, Monday the 25th, and Tuesday the 26th. It's called our Mega Monthly Auction, and our Mega Monthly Auction has close to 15, maybe a little over 1,500 comic books, ranging from CGC graded to raw comic books, from individual issues to group lots, from the golden age to modern age. And it's a great place where you can buy comic books or bid on comic books and get great deals for, like, if you love to read a book, you can get a whole run of comic books and you'll do really well with it. You're enjoying it, put it away in your collection. You'll have this great group of books. We've got comic books like Spider-Man 129, the first Punisher, in there. We've got books like group lots of X-Men and Spider-Man, and I think even Superman 76, which is, I think, the first time Superman and Batman learn each other's secret identities and cross over any comic book together. So there's a lot of fantastic books in there, and I would say anybody out there who's interested in collecting comic books, check out ComicConnect.com. We also have a fixed price marketplace where people can sign books at specific prices, and you can make offers and go back and forth with them. But our auctions are really where it's at. The mega monthly auctions are a fantastic place to find great books for your collection, as well as, of course, our event auction, which had really high-end rarities in them and just incredible books. So it's really exciting.
And what would be your advice the first time people dipping the toe into the world of auctions and buying as well? Because you might be people reading. What's any tips you'd have?
My best advice is just to come to my office, empty out your pockets, and just put money on my counter, and I'll go pick some stuff out for you. But the best thing to do is to educate yourself. The golden rule is buy what you love. Unless you're just strictly buying for investment's sake, which there are some people who do that, but most people buy comic books because they love comic books, because they love a particular character or creators or writers, or just the storytelling aspect of it. And what I would say is the first thing you should do is figure out what your budget is, create a want list of what you're looking for, try to make sure those things match up. If they don't, maybe you have to up your budget or lower the quality or the types of comic books you're trying to buy. What I also recommend to people is whatever your budget is, I take 10% of it out and leave it for miscellaneous purchases. Because even if you're really focused on books, it's not always easy if you see something cool to not buy it. So if you have that little bit of discretionary income in your budget for comic books, you can do that. The other thing is you want to educate yourself and learn about the marketplace. One way you can do that is you can check out our auctions, follow our auctions, as well as look at our sold section, where you can look up books and see what they've sold for. We have tons and tons of books in our sold section. So doing that and going to conventions and going to comic stores, becoming a member of different Facebook groups, or there's a CGC forum, which is really great, where you can ask other collectors questions and get information. People are very helpful. You call up my company, ComicConnect or Metropolis. We're always happy to talk comic books with enthusiastic collectors, passionate people. We set up at conventions all over the world, including we've set up all over the United States, especially New York, San Diego, Chicago. We do several other shows. But then overseas, we're at the Lake Como Art Convention in Lake Como, Italy. I've set up in England. I've set up in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and Dubai. We have clients all over the world. I definitely like to do some more international conventions, but with time, who knows, maybe we'll come to the Dublin Con one day.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I'm feeling insulted now. You've been everywhere but Dublin now.
I've never been to Ireland. And when I was younger, I have to be really honest with you, and this is something that'll probably shock and surprise your Irish constituents there. I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly Irish and Jewish, and a little bit of Italian. I'm of Italian descent. My family is from Italy. I'm first generation in the United States, and my we used to get bullied, Irish kids. So when I heard Irish people in Ireland were so nice, I was shocked, because I was like, these kids would pick on us all the time. You were so mean. But and then you hear the Irish in Ireland are like the nicest people in the world, and like, I've got to go there. And you see, videos and you see movies that are set in Ireland. It's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. You've never seen such green, verdant fields, and it's just amazing. So yes, I absolutely have to get over to Ireland. I definitely love to travel, and it would be a real pleasure to go to Ireland.
Oh no, amazing. And hopefully we see you here. As you say, like, we have the Dublin show. We also they've announced Cork Comic Con down south of the country. So the guys are branching out a little bit more.
How many people showed up at the Dublin Con?
To be honest, I wouldn't have for this year figures, but for us, our shows will be around, you're looking at like 10,000, I would say. So yeah. Because for us, it's, when you look at the population and everything, and we operate in the convention centre, which doubled as the government buildings during lockdown, but it's like this really modern building along the quays. So when people come along, it's like you're just 17 minutes from the airport. You see this really modern setting. When they give lunch for the guests, it's in a silver dish, kind of, with the performance. If you can't get over the hospitality of it. And then you just go down the Liffey, which is the main river that runs through the city. And you're just a 15-minute walk, then you're at Trinity College. 15 minutes more, you're down in the historic part of the city. And then, you take a bus, and then you can see the idyllic kind of suburban and countryside landscape. So it depends on what you want to get from the city. But I think anyone who visits, if they want that traditional, castles and churches and greenery, they get it. If they want just the sense of being in a European city, they get that as well. So yeah.
What's the first thing I have to eat if I come to Dublin?
Well, you see, what I would say would be if you're a drinker, definitely get the Guinness, and that's almost like a meal unto itself.
Sure.
But if it's food, I would recommend, because we just had Frank Miller over actually, and he went to the Pig's Ear, which is a restaurant across from Trinity College in the Nassau Street side, and they do a great boxty pancake, which is like a potato-based pancake, and they also do a type of a stew called coddle, which coddle has a little bit of everything. It has the ham, has the potatoes.
Wow.
And that they would be among our traditional dishes. But then also fish and chips you can't go wrong with as well. A lot of people prefer, and anything that's dairy based because of the the agriculture and the cows here. It's different. Like people who might not typically drink milk, butter or anything like that, you'll definitely notice a huge uptake in it over here. It's very rich, very nice.
All right, I'm sold. I'm booking a ticket tomorrow. When is the next show?
First, I think the next one will be happening around October. I think they're doing a horror show as well, so I don't know if that's in but I think
When's Dublin Con?
That would be March. Typically, we do 2 a year. One is March, so it'll be March in 2026, and then August again in 2026. So we've literally just finished 2 weeks ago, and some of the guests will stay on. So my mind's still back in July. I have like shell shock thinking it's August.
I got to see when I was about 25 years old, I got thrust into the comic convention promotion business. So we were setting up for the New York Great Eastern Convention at what was the New York Coliseum in Columbus Circle. It was this very big venue, and apparently the promoter didn't get the floor plan approved by the fire marshal, and they shut him down on the day people were driving to set up. And we were standing on the line, and he was just walking up and down to all the dealers online in the cars, telling them that basically it's not going to be a show. So my friends and I ran around the city, and we found an alternate location in the church basement of St. Paul the Apostle Church on 59th and 9th. And it was an incredible endeavor to put together a comic convention in 48 hours. But we had people waiting over at the New York Coliseum to walk people over. We gave free admission because we figured they'd been through enough. And we had we called it the Show Must Go On show, which later became Big Apple Conventions. And I got to tell you, I don't really have a stomach for comic convention promotion. It's a very hard job, and I decided to bail on that very early on. And but I am very proud to say that my original partner, Michael Carbonaro, who anybody who knows him knows what he is, a legend in the comic book community in New York and actually the whole United States. In fact, he's half Italian and half Irish, and his mother, Bridget, was from Ireland. So, yeah.
There's a volatile mix.
Very volatile. Oh, yeah. But there seemed to be a lot of mix and a big mix of Irish and Italian in New York. But anyway, the point being is Mike still runs that show. It's almost 30 years old. 1996 it started. So congratulations to you on running that show, and for getting Frank Miller is no easy task.
Oh, well, I can't own the credit on DCC. For me, it's what I do is I have an academy, Tala Academy Sequential Art TASQ, and we spun out this podcast. The reason it exists is because we wanted people to know we're not like a school or college. It's more like a resource. So Trina Farrell, who colours, Batman, Doc Pattertons and such, she operates from here every Tuesday and Thursday. And then we do have classes. So someone who's brand new to comics will come in and they'll walk alongside someone who's fully established in the field. And then Dublin Comic Con, that's operated by Carl Walsh and Derek Cosgrave, and they have been running it just as fans, and they started out in the National Show Centre and brought it all the way up. to the convention centre, and now they're spinning out 2 more shows. And they've been very, very good and generous to the Irish comic book community. They have a designated row in Artist Alley for young creators. You're talking about like kids like age 10 up, and given the first time to get the experience with their parents drawing and selling in Artist Alley. And then with the Academy, they give us a designated room, which is great. So we do more of these type of panels and talks. But yeah, because of the show, we had the opportunity to invite with the Academy as well, Frank Miller, and that was just insane because his family's Irish. We tracked his roots a bit, and he's had a really interesting adventure here because he stayed on for a week afterwards. So it was just incredible because he was something of a well-known figure to us, but also enigmatic. Like, we didn't quite know much about the man himself. And yeah, we actually managed to record with him at the Academy, so hopefully we'll have an episode with Mr. Miller, depending either before or after this episode. But thank you so much, Vincent, for your generous time, taking my questions and sharing about your process, both with Metropolis, ComicConnect, and also as a comic book creator as well with The Addiction. I also want to thank you as well, because here at the Academy, the room I'm calling you from, we actually have a great collection that we were able to secure thanks to ComicConnect. And the goal is a lot of our students and members come in and they get to, work under and study under some of this great original artwork to inspire them. And hopefully with the Academy, the goal is to build it towards a gallery and a more permanent exhibition space. So I can firsthand vouch for, the quality of your staff, yourself, and everything that you offer as well. And every time someone comes in, to see the excitement they get when they see it on display, it's amazing. It's great that we're able to share that, over, an ocean away. We're happy to be able to make that happen. So I do hope you make it over here and we can, keep in touch and see if you can make that work with the Dublin show as well.
I thank you so much, and it's nice to know that some of the artwork that we've sold has made it over there. That's great. I really appreciate you having me on. It's always fun for me, no matter how many podcasts I do. I also have my own podcast called Comic Zone, which people can listen to. We put up a lot of our throwback episodes where I've interviewed people like Frank Miller, Stan Lee, Todd McFarlane, David Finch, so many great artists and creators. You can find them in any aggregator. You can find them on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music. So Comic Zone Radio, please take a listen. Comic Zone. It's been a pleasure for me to do that, and it's also great for me to be a guest on a show like this. And thank you for all the very, very thoughtful questions and for having me on and making time for me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much, and hopefully we get a chance to talk again. I'll see you over in New York. I'll see you over here. So have a great one. Thank you. Many thanks again to Vincent for joining me in today's episode. It was very educational. It was great to hear Vincent's story from literally selling comics on the sidewalk to going all the way up to owning one of the biggest auction houses of original comic book art and holding some real treasures. It was also great to get the perspective of the original art sales and Golden Age, Silver Age comics as well. That was something I really wanted to explore more. It came up in previous conversations with some of the other guests and guest artists on this podcast. Until next time, this has been a copyright production of Macaulay Consultancy 2025.